Ole Miss came off a really bad loss against Kentucky last week, but they go into Columbia, a really tough place to play, and are able to beat South Carolina. Listen, I'm going to say this. This is going to be my only thing about this game that I saw because this is actually just what happened all day long. Shane Beamer got out-coached. He got out-coached. He made some dumb decisions. Very, very dumb decisions. That's it. I mean, I look at them and say that they left so much on the table, and I feel like he has a big part in doing that. You're coming off a bye week, and you draw an egg on offense. Cut me a break, man. Cut me a break.
Yeah, it was pretty vanilla play calling. Couldn't get anything going in the passing game. My statements about the offensive line were 1,000% correct, by the way, because they got worked. Ivy and Nolan both had 2 sacks.
Joe, what? Actually,
and they were without Uman Mielen as well. They didn't have Uman Mielen, and they still produced that.
Walter Nolan, JJ Pegues. JJ Pegues has 4 touchdowns rushing on the season. So that D-line, that D-line is pretty legit, dude.
Well, this is what's the stark difference is that, and it's another example of like how things can change on a week-to-week basis, is that this Ole Miss team has more life than we would have expected because of how they played against Kentucky. And if it wasn't for the Kentucky game, I think we could be arguing right now that Ole Miss is one of the top teams in the SEC if it wasn't for that terrible Kentucky performance. But, shoulda, coulda, woulda, we're not going to play that game. I'm not going to be critical of Shane Beamer because South Carolina fans get really hot and bothered when I say negative things about your overrated coach. So I'm just not going to do it. I'm gonna give credit to Lane Kiffin, though. I think that, and I said this coming into the game, that Lane Kiffin is the king of rallying his team when they play poorly the week prior. They have to, the rest of the season, Blake, they have to ride the run game. They have to stop doing what they did against Kentucky. If they have a single game where they just try to throw the ball over and over again, they're going to lose bad matchups that they're supposed to be much better than. If they play more balanced football, they will play as good as they did against South Carolina. They'll get the ball out quick. They'll pick up huge gains. They're good enough to finish 10-2. It all comes down to, does Lane Kiffin live up to the expectations and the hype, and does he overthink things like he did going into the Kentucky game?
Joe, I still think they have a problem running the football. I think something's off with their offense because, look, Jackson Dart went 2 of 8 in the second half. 2 of 8 for 51 yards.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, something's off. I don't know what it is. Now, here's what I'm starting to think. Those injuries that Lane Kiffin had been putting on the report, I think a lot of them are BS. I think he's trolling to some aspect. Joe, I think they're really beat up. I do. I mean, Trey Harris gets nicked up. Human Yelling gets nicked up. Look, their offensive line has been banged up. I think they've had some really bad injuries. The problem, look, they bounced back in a tough environment, and they did. But defensively, they've given up, 10 points the last 2 weeks combined? I mean, that's amazing against any conference opponent. Yeah. So defensively, they've been living up to the standard. It's, Joe, when is that offense going to get going? Is it going to be this week versus LSU? When is it going to get going? And it's just the last 2 weeks, man, you've had some really bad play offensively that if you don't correct this upcoming week, you're going to lose.
Absolutely. I really think, and when we do that preview tomorrow, their success is going to come down to, can they have a balanced offensive attack? And can that offensive line, that Ole Miss offensive line that's been really shaky, can they have a big game against a LSU defensive front that's been trying to figure out its own identity? BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.